What do you feel in your body when you hear the term white people?
I feel like a cringe about it. Cringe is a good word.
White, straight, cisgender man is the top of the pile.
So I'm on the top of the pile. It's me.
Can I just propose a toast? Raise a glass if you're racist. To racist.
That was really weird.
Don't deny that you're racist. Try not to be racist, but also don't realize that you're.
Until we're willing to talk about these things, healing can't really begin.
My daughter's 4 years old. She's still watching Disney movies and choosing a white princess.
Have you talked to her about that?
All the time.
Is racism inherent to whiteness?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, probably.
Well, yeah. Joining us now is Matt, certified DEI expert.
Did race exist as a reality before?
We made race exist.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. What do you mean?
What you're doing is you're stretching out of your whiteness. This is more for you and less for you.
Am I Racist? In theaters this Friday. Rated PG-13.
Folks, last night was a disgrace, a full-scale disgrace. That debate was rigged on behalf of Kamala Harris, soup to nuts, beginning to end. ABC News should be ashamed of themselves. They destroyed any credibility they had. David Muir, Lindsey Davis were doing the bidding of the people at the top of the chain at that network. The person on top of that chain is very good friends with Kamala Harris, actually fixed up Kamala Harris with Doug Emhoff. I mean, the bias is real, and it is spectacular. We're going to get into all of that, plus what Trump didn't do, what Harris did do. We'll get to that momentarily. First, your reminder, last night, Trump and Harris went toe-to-toe on the biggest political stage on the planet. The real battle is just beginning. And we here at the Daily Wire, we're on the front lines right now. If you want our constant updates, if you want to be in the news, if you want to be in the fight, if you want us making movies like Matt Walsh's Am I Racist, you need to help us out by becoming a new annual member. You get 47% off your new annual membership today. Why? Well, because I would like President Trump to be the 47th president of the United States. Use code FIGHT at dailywire.com/subscribe. Get 47% off those new Daily Wire Plus annual memberships. Okay. Last night was a rigged game. It was a rigged game, beginning to end. We'll get to the three big elements of the debate. Donald Trump's performance, Kamala Harris's performance. But the biggest element of the debate, by far, was the moderators. I don't think Trump did himself any long-lasting damage last night because in the end, Donald Trump is still Donald Trump, and he will remain Donald Trump forever. Kamala Harris, I think, actually overperformed for Kamala Harris. I think this is the best Kamala Harris can perform. The reason she could do that is because of the third factor, the moderators, and they did themselves lasting damage last night. The legacy media made itself appear to be precisely what it is, a Praetorian Guard on behalf of the Democratic Party. David Muir and Lindsey Davis were so far up Kamala Harris's ass, they were performing active colonoscopies with their eyeballs. It is impossible to overstate how in the tank for Kamala Harris they were. The basic format of the debate was they would ask Trump a question about how terrible his policies were, and then they would immediately swivel and ask Kamala Harris how terrible Donald Trump's policies were. It was unbelievable. You have a question that effectively amounted to, Mr. President, when did you stop beating your wife? And then he would attempt to spin, he'd attempt to defend, he'd get defensive, he'd answer. And then they would turn to Kamala Harris and say, what do you think of him lying about beating his wife? It was insane, insane. And it's not just me saying this, the data are saying this. Our friend Ryan Saavedra, reporter over at Daily Wire, he went through the debate transcript and he counted. There were 4 fact checks last night, active fact checks on the stage. Donald Trump was the subject of all 4 fact checks. In fact, we have a montage of Donald Trump being fact checked. Falsely, by the way, falsely, in the majority of these cases, by the members of the ABC News moderating panel.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born.
That's one
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals.
Migrant crime, and it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country.
Excuse me, the FBI defraud.
And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
no
Republican.
judge looked at it
and said
they
there was
said
no
we didn't have standing.
4 active fact checks. 4 active fact checks against Trump, 0 against Kamala Harris. And it wasn't just the fact checks. It was also the interruptions and the follow-ups. Meaning, they would interrupt Trump when he was talking. They would let Kamala Harris always finish. They didn't interrupt her a single time. The entire debate. Trump would be in the middle of a thought. They would interrupt him. Or they would follow up and push him. They never followed up on Kamala Harris. They never pushed her. Not once. Not once. Here is some footage of them interrupting Donald Trump. They interrupted Donald Trump multiple times last night. Here's the count.
Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have
That's
a lot of
one.
issues to get to.
Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former
There's
Speaker
two.
Pelosi. But I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up
There's three.
something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin.
But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan.
Here's the
President
follow-up.
Trump, we have to move on. President Trump.
Let's
Here's the
turn to
interruption.
policy, please.
5.
To defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move on to
not
other
allow
issues.
There's the
fracking
interruption.
in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay.
That's
you,
what
Mr.
her plan is
Exactly.
until just recently.
I just need
Lindsey,
to
go ahead.
President
Liz.
Trump.
No, the
President
former
Trump.
Multiple times. They pressed Trump, according to Ryan, 6 times for follow-ups. They pressed Kamala Harris 0 times for follow-ups. 0. Now, their case is it's because Trump was just so dishonest. He was just so dishonest. As we will see, because we're going to go through this debate in detail, she lied like a rug. She was awful last night in terms of her honesty. She was fibbing. She was lying. I mean, outright, full-scale debunked lies that she was just repeating ad nauseum last night. But the media had a game, and the game was to follow her game plan. Well, Kamala was lying and lying and lying last night, but when you lie down to go to sleep, you need the world's best mattress. Let me tell you a story. A couple of years ago, I was tossing and turning all night. My wife joked that I was having debates with the imaginary libs in my dreams. But then we decided to try that Helix sleep mattress and has been a game changer. Here's what's great about Helix. They've got 20 different mattresses, 20. They've got the Luxe for the fancy types and the Elite for the extra fancy, and even the Helix Plus for the bigger folks. You know, the kinds of dudes who've been taking their protein shakes. Now, you might be thinking, Ben, how do I know which one is right for me? Simple. Take that Helix sleep quiz. It's quick, easy. It takes less than 2 minutes. I took that quiz myself. They matched me with a medium firm mattress, which is perfect for me because I sleep on my back, and if the mattress is too soft, it's kind of a problem. Here's another great thing about Helix. They ship your personalized mattress right to your door free of charge. No dealing with mattress salespeople who are about as trustworthy as mainstream media fact checkers. And get this, they give you 100 nights to try it out, plus 10 to 15-year warranty. So if you want to sleep as soundly as I do, head on over to helixsleep.com/Ben. Take that sleep quiz. Plus, with Helix offering up to 25% off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners, it'll be the best decision you make since you've decided to not vote for Kamala Harris. Just go to helixsleep.com/Ben. That's helixsleep.com/Ben. With Helix, better sleep starts right now. She laid out her game plan pretty early on. In clip 4, for example, she suggested that it was all going to be about the playbook, the lies and the grievances. Right? She laid out her playbook. And the media picked up on that playbook, and they were going to repeat the playbook all night long. Here she was laying out exactly her playbook against Donald Trump.
Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression.
That was COVID was on the rebound. That's a lie.
Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century.
He left you the vaccine.
Donald Trump
and you blew
left
it.
us
You lied.
the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War.
That is a full-scale lie.
And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling.
Okay, so the media picked up on that, right? This is the whole media game. Donald Trump is dishonest. Donald Trump is mean. Donald Trump's a liar. And they were going to massage this debate into being that thing. They did not ask her a single follow-up question. They would ask her a question. The initial question might be okay. And then there would be 0 follow-up at all. So, for example, this debate opens, and the very first thing that's asked is a good question. David Muir asks her, are Americans better off than they were 4 years ago? And she proceeds to run around like a chicken with her head cut off. And she talks about everything except the question. It's a very simple question. Here is the exchange.
When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid.
What the hell does that have to do with
And I am
anything?
actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class.
What
and
the hell are
working
you
people of
talking about?
America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the
Such
American
jabbering crap.
And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy.
You notice
'Cause here's
she's
the
not,
thing.
and she cut her off. She goes on like this for like 2 straight minutes. 2 straight minutes of, I have no idea what what I'm talking about. Very simple question. Now, this is where Trump comes in. The media were awful last night, without a doubt. It was a 3-on-1 pile-on. Every element of the debate was rigged against Donald Trump because they are, in fact, attempting to rig via their influence this election in favor of Kamala Harris. There is no question that that is a thing that is happening. However, the opportunities were still there for Trump to take. And this is where you get to Trump's performance last night. Trump did not perform well last night. He did not do his job last night. Donald Trump's job was to point out a few things. Not all that many. One, she is the current vice president of the United States. She is responsible for every single thing that is happening right now in the United States. She's responsible for those things. And this would have been a perfect time for him to do it. Right? She's asked a question. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? And she just rambles like a nut. He should come back, and the first thing he should say is, I noticed she was asked a question. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago when I was president of the United States? And she proceeded to tell you about her middle-class childhood and about all the plans that she apparently has not implemented as vice president for the last 3.5 years. The reason she's avoiding the question is because we all know the answer. You aren't. You're way worse off than you were 4 years ago because she's the vice president of the United States. Because she's the vice president of the United States. That's why you're worse off. She won't answer that question. You can ask her 1,000 times and she won't answer the question because she knows the answer and I know the answer and you know the answer. Right? That's what Donald Trump should do. Instead, Donald Trump gets sidetracked. So this was the story of the night. Kamala Harris's entire game plan was to basically, like a laser pointer with a cat, point Trump at something that annoys him and bugs him and then wait for him to jump at it. So she starts going off on his tariffs and his economic plans and all the things that he's done. And he then responds by rambling for a while about how his tariff plans are actually quite good and all the rest of this kind of thing. Like, that is not useful. That is not useful. He needed to be on task last night because here's the thing. What became apparent, what has been apparent for months at this point, the media are not going to do the job of informing the American people about Kamala Harris. If you watched that debate last night, you came away with zero new information about Kamala Harris. Zero. You know no more today than you knew yesterday or the day before about Kamala Harris and her positions. If 30+% of Americans don't know enough about her positions yesterday, same number, don't know much about her positions today because the moderators were totally uninterested in asking her about it. But it was up to Trump because she's not going to make herself subject to interviews. She is not going to elucidate her opinions. She is not going to make clear what exactly she has changed her mind on. And so it was up to Trump last night to just point that out over and over. And he didn't. And he didn't because he got distracted. And that was the biggest problem last night for Donald Trump. It was the biggest problem. Right? So for example, that clip where she's talking about how it's going to be lies and grievances and he left us the worst economy and all this kind of stuff. Trump got sidetracked on that. Right? He immediately went defensive. He shouldn't have gone defensive. He should have said, listen, you're complaining about what you were left. What you were actually left was an economy that was in recovery from the worst pandemic in a century. And what you have given us is a complete and utter disaster area. The question of this election is, again, extraordinarily simple. Are you better off under your administration or mine? We know the answer. He could have said that over and over and over. It didn't require memorization. It didn't require detailed knowledge of anything. I'm not asking Donald Trump to memorize the GDP stats. All I'm saying is that he could have done that. But I think somewhat understandably, because it was a 3-on-1, because it was a pile-on, I think he felt the necessity to defend himself from all of this stuff rather than going on offense. And that was a mistake. So again, she makes all these false claims, and his immediate move is to start talking about his amazing record on the pandemic. Now, here's the thing. Most people don't actually think the pandemic went all that well. Republicans don't think the pandemic went all that well in 2020. So why is he doing this? It is not useful. It is not useful. And Kamala Harris is sitting there grinning because she knows she's thrown him off the scent. Well, Kamala's entire plan last night was to misdirect and then get under Donald Trump's skin. And it was a mistake for him to fall for any of that. But you know what? You don't have to make a mistake when it comes to educating yourself. And there are a lot of bad places you can go these days, a lot of bad places, that'll indoctrinate you and teach you left-wing theories that make you think that what Kamala Harris said last night is in any way creditable. Or you go to Grand Canyon University. It's a private Christian university in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona. GCU believes we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights: life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. GCU equips you to serve others in ways that promote human flourishing and create a ripple effect of transformation for generations to come. By honoring your career calling, you impact your family, your friends, and your community. Whether you're pursuing a bachelor's or a master's or a doctoral degree, GCU's online, on-campus, and hybrid learning environments are designed to help you achieve your unique academic, personal, and professional goals. With over 330 academic programs as of December 2023, GCU meets you where you are and provides a path to help you fulfill your dreams. The pursuit to serve others is yours. Find your purpose at Grand Canyon University. Private, Christian, affordable. Visit gcu.edu. That's gcu.edu. What she played last night was a trick on Donald Trump. The trick was very easy. She got Donald Trump to talk about Donald Trump. And that was a win for her, because if Donald Trump is talking about Kamala Harris, she loses. If the country is talking about Kamala Harris, she loses. If the country is talking about Donald Trump, she wins. And she knows that. And Trump fell for it last night. And that is a mistake by him. It certainly is. Here at clip 5 was Trump talking about the economy and the pandemic. Again, every element of this debate should have been about the current administration. She's the sitting vice president and maybe acting president. And you couldn't come away from that debate last night thinking that Donald Trump is the current president of the United States and she's the challenger. Here's Trump's response to that particular bit of lying and chicanery by Kamala Harris.
We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounce back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them.
Okay, so again, that's all fine and good, except for it doesn't forward the ball. It doesn't move the ball forward. And it doesn't really change the nature of the game. And the game needed to change in terms of how people viewed Kamala Harris. Now, that's not to say that Trump didn't get his quips in. So clip 7, she's been jabbering about her plans. And he points out that she doesn't have any plans. They're ridiculous. Now, I will say that I think that if you watched this debate with the sound off, Kamala Harris did much worse than if you watch it with the sound on, which is a rarity because usually she's just terrible. I mean, just vocally a problem. Yeah, that she's got the nasal sort of whiny thing going. But last night, visually, she was making faces the whole debate. I don't think it actually did her a lot of favors in that realm. But here was Trump getting in a pretty good shot. He mentions that she has released plans on her website, and here's his response.
She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Okay, and this is where he should add, you don't need to know about the fake plan she's putting up on her website. She's the vice president of the United States. Again, I keep hammering this over and over and over because that's how you win a debate in a situation like this. What you want, if you're Donald Trump, is for the American people to come away from the debate with the following observations about Kamala Harris. 1, she is not ready for the job. She has no idea what she's doing and she's unready for the job. 2, she is the sitting vice president. She owns everything you hate about the country right now. She owns that. It's a changed election. It's time to get rid of her. And 3, you have no idea what her real plans are because she doesn't know what her real plans are. But we all know that her values haven't changed. She said it. I didn't say it. She said it. And her values are far left. Right? Incompetent. Owns everything that's happening. Far left. Those are the 3 things that people needed to come away with last night. I'm not sure they came away with any of them. Largely because the Democrats basically created, via David Muir and Lindsey Davis, an impenetrable shield around Kamala Harris, and partially because Trump got so distracted by pretty much everything. Again, that's not to say everything that he said last night was ineffective or bad. Again, he had some pretty funny lines. Right? Clip 9, Trump says, she's switching all of her positions, and he's right about this.
Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in.
Okay, so the line about the MAG hat is right. It requires fleshing out. This is part of the other problem with Trump's performance last night, is that he would say the first half of the line and not explicate what he meant by the line. What he should say is, I'm going to send her a MAGA hat. I, for example, had said for a year that there should be no taxes on tips. She saw that was good policy, and she immediately copied it. Right? I've always been in favor of fracking. She wanted to ban fracking, and now suddenly she pretends that she's in favor of fracking. Why is she on my side of the aisle? Right? I'm always in favor of gun rights. She's now saying that she doesn't want to mandatorily confiscate guns. That's weird. What's she doing over here? You know, last time I looked at her, she was way the hell over there by Bernie Sanders. And now I look and she's standing right next to me hugging my policies. It's very strange. Right? But he didn't flesh it out. He kind of leaves it out there because I think, again, he speaks in Twitter. He speaks in shorthand. And in a debate, that's not particularly useful. You know, the debate last night, it kind of gets your heart rate up, kind of gets the blood pumping, makes you pretty agitated. But the reality is that sometimes you just need a distraction. And one distraction is, of course, Sunday's coming football games. So I'll tell you what makes the football games a little bit more fun to watch. Prize Picks. One of my producers, Jake, huge fan of Prize Picks. Jake has picked Lamar Jackson to have more than 220.5 passing yards and for Patrick Mahomes to have more than 267.5 passing yards. He's always raving about how easy it is to make entries on all his favorite players. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Here's how it works. You pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. It's that simple. Right now, they've got a deal that's almost too good to be true. In September, just one Caleb Williams passing yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend. That is correct. 1 yard, 4 weeks of free wins. Don't wait. That deal vanishes when September ends. Here's something else that sets Prize Picks apart. With Prize Picks, you can win up to 100 times your money with as few as 4 correct picks. With their injury insurance policy, if your player leaves in the first half and doesn't return, your picks are still active. It's almost like they actually care about their members. Speaking of members, Prize Picks puts them first. All withdrawals are fast, safe, secure. When the picks hit, you can get your money in as fast as 15 minutes. And get this, they invented the flex play. You can still cash out even if your lineup ain't perfect, double your money, even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code BEN to get $50 instantly when you play 5. That is code BEN on Prize Picks. Get $50 instantly when you play 5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Prize Picks. Run your game. So, for example, he says she's a Marxist. Okay, now would be an excellent time for him to explain what he means by that. It happens to be true, by the way. Right? What he should say is, she's a Marxist. How do I know she's a Marxist? She put out a video in November 2020 in which she claimed that the job of the government is to find equal outcome for everyone. Equal outcome, not equal opportunity, equal outcome. That is a Marxist principle, and she is seeking to implement that across the United States. Right? He needs to actually explain what he means by that. Instead, he says, well, her dad was a Marxist. Okay, I mean, that's true as far as it goes, but it doesn't do a lot of the work. Now, I think Trump's best moment actually was on abortion. The problem was that here's where every time Trump started to get some momentum, the moderators stepped in and cut him off at the knees. So, for example, he pointed out that Democrats are radical on abortion, which is true. And he pointed out that her vice presidential pick has been in favor of abortion across the board. This is all true. And he says that Democrats are against things like the Born Alive Infant Protection Act. Democrats want to make it so that if a baby is, quote unquote, accidentally born during an abortion, there's a botched abortion, baby's born, they want to make it so there's no criminal liability that attaches to letting the baby die. That is true. Democrats do want that. That is why Tim Walz opposed a Born Alive Infant Protection Act in Minnesota. And 8 babies have actually been born during botched abortions and have died on the table in Minnesota. And so he says that. And he's right. And you know what the moderators do? They lie. Because it turns out the fact checkers are there to lie on behalf of Kamala Harris. Here we go.
The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies.
Okay, again, that's the game. They fact check Trump, and it's a false fact check. Democrats want to make it so no legal liability attaches to a doctor doing exactly what Ralph Northam, again, Trump did this right. He said Ralph Northam, the former governor of Virginia, literally said that if a baby is born alive accidentally during an abortion, you put it off to the side and you make it comfortable until you decide what to do with it. That is a thing that Ralph Northam said. And they lied about it because Lindsey Davis is a liar and David Muir is a liar. And they are lying on behalf of their preferred political party. Because I got to tell you, the cocktail parties are amazing in New York. It's not really about cocktail parties. It's about friend circles. I guarantee you that for years and years and years, David Muir and Lindsey Davis have been saying to each other over coffee and to the rest of their colleagues, they've been saying, you know, if I ever get Trump in front of me, here's what I'm going to ask him. And if he lies, I'm going to fact check him so hard it'll make his head spin. They've been prepping this for years. Our friend Cabot Phillips, who covers this stuff for the Daily Wire, who's actually at the debate, where he's in the spin room and with the rest of the media, he said the media were actively cheering and guffawing during the debate. There were like 1,000 members of the media, and people were actively groaning at Donald Trump saying things. There is an entire media apparatus that is designed in order to propagandize on behalf of Kamala Harris, and they made themselves apparent last night in the room. By the way, she lied 1 second later, literally lied 1 second later about abortion. She said that he would sign a ban on abortion nationwide. Not only is that not true, J.D. Vance, who's pro-life, more pro-life than Trump is, J.D. Vance has said that's not true. So she's lying. Did the moderators fact check her? Of course not. Of course not. They're too busy massaging her shoulders. They're too busy participating in the human centipede at the rear end. Here we go.
If Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie.
Okay, he's right. But why aren't the moderators saying that? Where are the moderators? Where are you? I thought you're fact checking. Where are your fact checkers? He has said over and over and over, until the cows come home, he is not associated with Project 2025. He has said that over and over. Where are the fact checkers? He has never said he would sign a national abortion ban. Where are the fact checkers? They're off in the cornfield. No one knows. No one knows. Trump himself tried to prompt the moderators. He was like, you know, you might want to ask her a question at some point here, like about abortion. Is she in favor of abortion in month 7, 8, 9? Will you ask her that question?
You should ask. Will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer the question? Would you
because
veto?
Under Roe v. Wade,
answer the question, would you veto?
You could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth.
Yes, it's true. Yes, it's true. But where are the fact checkers? Where are the fact checkers? Okay, so, again, I think that for the first half hour of the debate, despite all of the obstacles, despite everything else, I don't think Trump was doing amazing, but he was certainly holding his own. And then we got into distractible Trump, like the really distractible Trump. And this started with Kamala Harris playing the most obvious distraction game in the entire world, and Trump could not resist it. It was very, very frustrating. Listen, as you know, I'm campaigning all over the United States for Republican Senate candidates. I've given my own money to President Trump. I've held fundraisers for President Trump. I want him to win. In order for him to win, he needs to be disciplined. It's an incredibly narrow election. This election is within margin of error in North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. It is within margin of error in all 7 of those states, which means that she doesn't need a big bump coming out of this debate. All she needs is like a few thousand votes coming out of these debates. And it means that he needs a few thousand votes in return, which means he can't simply follow his egoistic whim and get into things like crowd sizes. You know, Trump got sidetracked a lot last night. It was not good for him. And when you get sidetracked with your business, it's bad for you. One major sidetracking for your business is HR. You get caught up in HR issues, you got a serious problem on your hands. When we started Daily Wire, we didn't really think about HR. We were so focused on creating our content, it was difficult to find a managing professional capable of handling day-to-day HR tasks. That's true for a lot of businesses, which is why you should talk to my friends over at Bambee. With Bambee, you're not just getting an HR manager, you're getting a dedicated partner who's available by phone, email, and real-time chat. They'll handle crucial tasks like employee onboarding, terminations, and performance reviews. With Bambee's HR Autopilot feature, you can streamline essential HR practices like employee training and feedback procedures, freeing up time for what really matters to your business. All of Bambee's HR managers are based in the United States and can support the nuances across all 50 states. HR managers can easily cost $80,000 annually. Bambee starts at just $99 monthly. So no matter the size of your business, Bambee can work for you. Don't wait another minute. Schedule your free consultation by visiting Bambee.com right now. Type Ben Shapiro under podcast when you sign up. Spelled BAMBE.com. Bambi.com. Type in Ben Shapiro. And my friend Matt Walsh last night was pointing this out. He said this was the turning point of the day. I thought it was a great observation, and it's true. So, clip 14, Kamala Harris decides that she is going to just attack him about his rallies. And for whatever reason, this has become a weird sore spot with Trump. He should be pretty confident about his rallies. His rallies are packed. People love him. Yeah, like that is what it is. But he can't stop himself. He can't stop himself. And his actual affect in the debate changed. She attacked him about his rallies, and now he's pissed. Now he's really pissed. Sort of like how in the first debate with Joe Biden, he wasn't really upset the entire debate until Joe Biden started claiming that he was a scratch golfer, and that really got under Trump's skin. She dropped this just to get under his skin. This is itching powder to Trump. She dropped it specifically to annoy him, and it worked. And that's a failure by Trump. It is. You cannot be distracted by this sort of stuff. Here was Kamala Harris saying a dumb thing. You know what his response should have been? It should have been, what do you care about my rallies? Why are you concerned about my rallies? I'm concerned about the American people. People come to my rallies because they want to hear what I have to say. I assume people go to your rallies because they want to hear what you have to say, and also because they want to hear like Taylor Swift or something. But the American people don't like your policies because they suck, because you're bad at being vice president. Right? That you just have to keep bringing it back, keep bringing it back to the policy. And he wouldn't do it. Instead, he just chases that, again, just squirrel and just races off after whatever the distraction is. And that's a failure. Here's clip 14 where this started to go really off the rails.
I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you.
People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
There have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is the
people on television say my dog was taken.
The Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme.
She's awful. She's awful. I mean, that laugh comes out and you're like, oh no. But she got under his skin. So he starts going off about the rallies, and then he starts actually saying that this is one of the problems. The people around President Trump, I don't know who's giving access to the very online, giving Trump access to those people or giving those people access to Trump. I don't know who's doing that. It's ridiculous, and it needs to stop. The very online crowd is going to lose in this election. The people who are super in love with the memery, the people who think that this election is going to be won or lost based on whether a Haitian migrant is carrying a goose in Springfield, Ohio, those people need to be far away from President Trump. They do. I mean, that's just a reality because he's up there and he's repeating stuff about cats and dogs being eaten. And there's controversy about whether that's happening. Again, it is true that the Springfield city manager has said that that is not happening. But again, as J.D. Vance has said, the vice presidential candidate, who's quite good at this, he has said it doesn't really matter whether that's the case. The case is that you flooded a town of 60,000 people with 20,000 Haitian immigrants, and that has some pretty dire ramifications for both the social fabric and for the social services in that particular town. Right? But Trump can't do that. So, there are three stories here. The first story is about the media. That really is the big story because they allowed Kamala Harris to get away with it last night. It is a rigged process, rigged. Okay, the second story is about Kamala Harris, who evaded all blows. And what that comes down to is both the media defending her, she was well prepared, and it comes down to President Trump not laying a glove on her all night. He really did, because in order to lay a glove on somebody, it's not enough to throw occasional jabs amid sort of wild wheeling. You have to meticulously pick things apart. You have to hit the jab over and over and over and over. You have to jab and then jab again. And it has to be short. And it has to be concise. It has to be punchy, which is a thing that Donald Trump used to be able to do really well, and I think still can again in the right circumstances. But yeah, it was very difficult to sit and watch this thing happen. It's very difficult. So even when Trump was getting in points, it was sort of amid a litany of other points. And so it sort of got lost in translation. It started to sound like the Charlie Brown teacher. That was the problem for President Trump last night. Beyond all of the rigging, and again, you can't blame Trump for all of that because it's very difficult to walk into a circumstance where it's 1-on-3. I've been in those circumstances. It's not fun. It's not easy. With that said, was this a win for Donald Trump last night? Obviously not, which was the purpose. That's why they rigged it this way. In just 1 second, we'll get to more of this. We'll get to the media attacking Donald Trump on January 6th. And again, Trump chasing the rabbits. And then we'll get to the actual impact of this, which again, I think that you're going to get, the vibes machine is going to ramp back up for Kamala Harris. I'm not sure how long that can last. First, we are 2 days away from the Daily Wire's first theatrical release, Am I Racist?, in theaters nationwide. As of the latest count, Am I Racist? Will open in over 1,500 theaters this Friday. More screens are being added every single day. We gave some lucky fans across the country a chance to see it early. Here's what they had to say. One says, everyone needs to see this film. Hilarious, intelligent, insightful. This is one of the best things the Daily Wire has ever done. I can't believe Matt Walsh said all of those things about his own movie. But it actually is. It's like an awesome movie. Get ready for the comedy that's hilariously exposing the left's race hustling. Am I Racist? Only in theaters on Friday. Head to amiracist.com for tickets and showtimes near you. That is amiracist.com. Now, again, this combination of the moderators doing Kamala Harris's work for her and Donald Trump being distracted by the fact that he was being attacked made for a pretty bad combination for Trump, particularly the last half of the night. So, for example, David Muir, of course, he's been waiting years to do this. He wanted to ask Donald Trump about January 6th. Of course. Now, you'll remember in the first debate, Donald Trump actually was asked about January 6th when he was facing off with Joe Biden. And you'll remember that Donald Trump said people care a lot less about January 6th than they do about, how they're doing right now. Joe Biden's been the president. They care about what they're doing right now. And he could have given the same answer here, right? The question was, you said you were going to march to the Capitol, and aides said you would watch it unfold. Say, listen, we can have a debate over what I said or did on January 6th. I obviously have a perception. I said that they should peacefully and patriotically march to the Capitol. I was not in favor of rioting and violence, as I made clear throughout the day. But that's not the issue in this election campaign. The issue in this election campaign is, do you want her to be the president of the United States? Right? He needs to get back to that. But because he was being assaulted from all sides and because he's distractible, he decided to just keep going on this, like going and going and going on this. And the media Muir and Davis were more than happy to watch him spin out over this, just spin his wheels. Kamala Harris, too. If you're reaching out to independent voters, do you want multiple minutes on Ashley Babbitt? I mean, it's terrible that Ashley Babbitt was shot. She shouldn't have been in the Capitol building in the first place. It was disputed circumstance, all sorts of problems there. But is that what this election is going to be about if Trump is to win? That's the question. Right? The question is one of efficacy. So here's this exchange.
On January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
Again, getting into the details of security arrangements on January 6th is not the winning strategy right here. But again, she was aided all night long by the media. We said she wasn't fact-checked at all. The single most egregious example of this. She started dumping lie after lie after lie. This is where she's mannered. Like, everyone's pretending that she was amazing last night. She wasn't amazing. She's the best Kamala Harris can be, which is to say, mannered, practiced, wildly inauthentic, totally incapable of expressing genuine human emotion. I know they're trying to pretend that she's like a big hugger and she's super authentic and she's relatable. She's not any of those things. She's the most ersatz candidate in modern American history. She is as fake as a $3 bill. She is truly fake. So she just lies here over and over. Where are the fact checkers? Did they disappear? Poof, they're gone. Like, here she's about to deliver a multiplicity of lies, one after another. No fact check, nothing. They just let it sit there. This is where, again, the moderators, my goodness, if there were a professional guild that actually were in charge of moderating debates, these people would be out on their asses. But of course, there isn't. And so they will be feted and celebrated by the mainstream media as having done a wonderful job. Here's Kamala Harris lying over and over and over and over and over again.
What did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side.
No, that's
Let's
been debunked.
remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by.
No,
Donald
he didn't
Trump,
mean
the candidate,
You're a liar.
has said in this election there will be a bloodbath.
That's the biggest lie. Economic bloodbath if she
The outcome
wins.
of this election is not to his liking.
Okay, that's 3 lies in a row. 0 fact checks. None. Zip. So you can understand why Trump was losing his cool. You can understand why they were under his skin, for sure. And again, it was the questioning. So clip 23, David Muir, he asks what I thought was the most egregious question of the night, right? He turns to her and he asks her, how bad is Donald Trump? This is an insane question. Okay, this question is nuts. You would imagine that if he's going to ask about Donald Trump's prior terrible comments, he would ask Donald Trump about it. That's what you do in a debate. If you're a moderator, you ask a tough question to the candidate about whom you are speaking. Instead, David Muir goes, Donald Trump has said that he's going to prosecute all of his enemies. Kamala Harris, just how evil is Donald Trump?
He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
How is that a question?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. World leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you.
She's
and they
so
say
irritating.
you're a disgrace. Perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact.
I mean, she's awful, but that question is such a setup. It's such a setup. So, Kamala, Donald Trump, puppies. Do you think that makes him, the worst person in the world or even worse than the worst person in the world? On a level, on a scale, Miss Vice President, on a scale of Stalin to Hitler, where does Donald Trump lie? Is it like below Stalin but above Hitler, or above Hitler and also above Stalin? Like where? I mean, these questions are an absurdity. They're an absurdity. And by the way, no serious follow-ups. So I'll show you the no serious follow-ups game. Clip 32. This was the moment where Donald Trump should have put her through a wall. Okay, there are many moments in this debate that are very frustrating. As a professional, debate watcher, as a person who does this for a living and has watched every major presidential debate for the last 25 years or whatever, you can tell when there are openings. There are a lot of openings here for Donald Trump to have clocked her. But again, I think that Trump was so distracted by all the attacks on him and fighting off a 3-1 vantage that I think that threw him. This was the moment where Trump should have put her through a wall. Truly. Clip 32. The only question Muir asked all night that was really kind of should have been tough for Kamala. And she avoids it like the plague. No follow-ups. You'll see.
Do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this. And the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David.
President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
I got involved with the Taliban.
Okay, we can stop right there. Okay, so I want to show you this game. This is I think the most crucial area of the debate. This particular exchange is the absolutely if there is a crucial area, we'll get to that in a second as to what the impact of the debate is, because I think the kind of answer to the impact of the debate is not much. Once it's all out in the wash, I don't think that it's going to mean all that much. But this was, in many ways, the crucial area of the debate. Okay, why? Let me go through the transcript right here to make sure that I hit all the points because there's a lot here. Okay, one, she is asked, do you bear any responsibility in the way the withdrawal played out? And her immediate answer is, I was there and it was great. Trump's answer should start with, Madam Vice President, you were just asked whether you bear any responsibility for the way the withdrawal played out. And you said you agreed with the decision making, which means you own that disaster. You own the billions of dollars in American military equipment left to the Taliban. You own the fact that the Taliban took over the country while you and your president lied blatantly to the American people. You own the people falling from the wheel wells. You own the 13 dead American soldiers whose families you didn't even contact, and then you slandered me for having gone to Arlington National Cemetery at their behest. You own the fact that there are 19 million Afghan women living in slavery and servitude. You own all. You pretend you care about women. You don't give a damn about women. You are perfectly happy to watch them stuffed into bags in the basement, not going to school at the age of 11, and forcibly married to men 3 times their age because you wanted your headline victory. This is on you, and you have no regrets. You have none. Don't give me your empathy. You don't have empathy. All you care about is you. Okay, that is what Trump's answer should have been to the first point where she blatantly acknowledges that she has no regrets whatsoever about what happened in Afghanistan. Okay, then she says that there is not one member of the United States military in an active duty in a combat zone, in any war zone. That also is a lie. He should be saying, the only reason that you can say that, Madam Vice President, is because you're ignoring dead Americans again. Americans have died this year in the Red Sea, attempting to stop the Houthis. Americans are in combat zones right now. We have ships in the Mediterranean off the coast of Lebanon. There are Americans in war zones. We just did an operation against ISIS. You don't care about any of those people. You're willing to watch them die for your own personal political gain. That's point number 2. And then she starts with you negotiated a bad deal with the Taliban. And again, this was her throwing the red herring out there. And he falls for it. And David Muir helps. David Muir is so gross, because the follow-up here should be, so, Madam Vice President, again, the question was, do you bear responsibility for Afghanistan? Do you have any regrets? You didn't answer it, do you? He didn't do that. Instead, he turns to Trump, and he doesn't even ask Trump to respond to her. He asks Trump to respond to his deal with the Taliban, which is utterly irrelevant because when she and her boss took over, they were then the people in charge of what happened in Afghanistan. So Muir deliberately points him at another issue, and Trump, because he's distracted and because he's distractible, doesn't ignore the question and go right at Kamala Harris. Okay, another thing she says in here, which is insane. She says, you know what a terrible deal maker. You negotiated with terrorists. She is actively negotiating with Hamas right now. She and her boss put an arms embargo on the state of Israel in the middle of a terrorist cell holding Americans hostage and head. And she's in negotiation with terrorists. Right? That's what Trump should have said. Donald Trump was taking on Kamala Harris, and that is a lady who does not believe in the American dream in any real way. But you do, dudes. In a world gone mad, the Precision 5 from Jeremy's Razors stands as a beacon of sanity. 5 blades of superior engineering offer a shave as unshakable as your faith that the nation's best days still lie ahead. Experience an exceptionally smooth, remarkably close shave, a testament to the fact that merit still matters. Stop giving your money to the woke corporations that hate your guts. Get Jeremy's Razors Precision 5. It's available right now at jeremy'srazors.com, walmart.com, and Amazon Prime. Okay, but it's not even about that. What it really is about is the fact that she was allowed to skate on all of this. And David Muir, again, the transcript says, Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying, you began the negotiations with the Taliban. That's not how you do a response question. You say, President Trump, your response. You don't... He literally frames the part he wants Trump to talk about. Ignore the fact that she just lied about Americans in combat zones, dying in combat zones. Ignore everything she has said about her own record in Afghanistan. Ignore the fact that she says now it's suddenly bad to talk with terrorists when she is actively negotiating with people who are terrorists and kowtowing to all of their supporters in Dearborn, Michigan. David Muir wants you to talk about what you did at Camp David. That's the really, really important thing. Again, it's the missed opportunity. The missed opportunity is what this is all going to be about. Now, again, another key exchange, clip 34. So Trump finally gets to the point. Okay, very late in the debate, like very super late in the debate. There were a couple moments where Trump hit the thing. But again, because it's buried in 90 minutes of mayonnaise, it's very difficult to actually taste the product. So Trump points out, you are Biden. We've had bad inflation. You are responsible for that. And then she attempts something And this is, again, where he should put her through a wall. Clip 34.
She is Biden. She's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The worst inflation we've ever had, a horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country. One who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism.
His vibe's
about
down,
what
man.
we can do instead of always
this is where she's fake.
the American people.
Disparaging the American. She spends all night saying that he's a disgrace, but he's the one who's mean and disparaging. Again, the comeback here should be, you can say you're not Joe Biden. Why isn't he on the stage? Where is he, by the way? I noticed you say you're not Joe Biden. The only reason you're on the stage is because he handed you the nomination. The only reason you're here is because he made you the vice president. The only reason you're here is because you have presided over the worst inflation in modern American history, is because you were the last person in the room on Afghanistan, is because you were the deciding vote on the Inflation Reduction Act that increased inflation. That's why you're here. You say you're not Joe Biden. The reality is you're stapled to him at the hip. He says it. You've said it. By the way, you still lying about his health condition? Like, what's the story with that? Okay, the final thing that Trump said was actually the best thing he said all night. Okay, the final thing that Trump said, his closing statement, was the best thing he said all night, bar none. And I wish he had opened with this. I wish like hell he had opened with this. Here was his closing statement.
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it.
Okay, I wish he'd opened with that. Can you imagine if this debate had started with him saying that? That would have been great. That would have been great. Okay, so bottom line is, again, the media beclowned themselves at a historic level, unseen by human eyes up to this point. They made Candy Crowley look as though she was an honest interlocutor during that debate with Mitt Romney and Barack Obama back in 2012. Because the media are absolutely the number one story. The number two story is Kamala Harris was able to perform as well as Kamala Harris can perform, meaning she didn't really get dinged. She had all the help in the world. She had her emotional support pets over there behind the moderator's desk, and they were able to spoon feed her all the easy questions. And when they asked her a somewhat difficult question, let her get away with it. And so she was able to kind of do the Hopi, joy, vibey thing all night long without getting into the details of her policy. And for Donald Trump, is he worse for the wear? Not really. He's always the same as he was. He's always the same, Donald Trump. It's just a missed opportunity. And in a very close election, you can't keep missing opportunities. And I said, way back by the RNC, when Donald Trump picked J.D. Vance, who I think J.D. is incredibly intelligent. I think he's unbelievably articulate. I also think that J.D. doesn't win you additional votes in the Midwest, and I don't think that he wins you additional votes in the suburbs. I said that it was a missed opportunity. He should have picked Glenn Youngkin, but he picked J.D. Vance. That's fine. It's a missed opportunity. When Donald Trump gave his 93-minute speech at the RNC, and the first half an hour was great, and then it just kept going forever, like almost forever. I said, what did I feel like after the RNC? I said, I feel like this is the sixth inning, and I'm watching the team I'm rooting for up 3 runs in the sixth. And I feel like they just left the bases loaded with no outs without getting a run. That's what I feel like. And if you keep missing opportunities, then they start to pile up. There aren't that many opportunities left. There's like 2 months left of this campaign. Donald Trump and his campaign need to be meticulous. Yes, he's facing entrenched obstacles. Yes, he's facing a media that is rigging this thing against him. 100% that's true. 100% that's true. Yes, the machine has been activated against him and against JD and against the rest of the Republican Party. That is 100% true. Also, the job of the presidential candidate is to win. He can still win. This election is tight as a tick. So naturally, the media were celebratory over the debate. Daniel Dale, who again, they take out of storage every so often just to fact check Trump. He gave what I thought was the most ridiculously dishonest fact check summation maybe I've ever seen. He said that Donald Trump lied 33 plus times last night, but Kamala Harris lied once. And if you believe that, I have a bridge in Brooklyn that is for sale.
CNN senior reporter Daniel Dale was listening closely to both candidates. Daniel, what stood out to you?
Jake, what stood out was that this was a staggeringly dishonest debate performance from former President Trump. Just lie after lie on subject after subject. By my preliminary count, Jake, Trump made at least 33 false claims, 33. By contrast, by, again, a preliminary count, Vice President Harris made at least one false claim.
That's absurd. That's absurd. Just in this show, I've listed off at least a dozen lies that Kamala Harris told last night, ranging from the fine people on both sides hoax to the idea that she never backed mandatory gun buybacks. I mean, she was lying all up to the fact that he backed Project 2025, a lie. The idea that he was going to sign into law some sort of nationwide abortion ban, a lie. The idea that there are not Americans in combat zones, a lie, right? Just lying and lying, all night long lying, Kamala Harris. And you got Daniel Dale pretending that ain't the case. Now, I do think the American people are smart enough to see through a lot of all of this. I think that the American people can see that the media rigged this thing on behalf of Kamala Harris. And Donald Trump's response to the debate was this. Here he was today.
Mr. President, how do you feel about the night? 105 minutes long. You've done this before. I think your 8th one. What is your review of your performance?
Well, I looked at the poll numbers. I listened to Harold Ford. I don't know what he was watching because I think he wasn't watching the debate that I was in yesterday. I think we did great. It was 3-1. It was a rigged deal, as I assumed it would be, because when you looked at the fact that they were correcting everything and not correcting with her, and we knew it when it was 100% good coverage for her over the last month or last year. I looked at it and only bad coverage of me, no matter what. The press is so dishonest in this country, it's amazing. Now, I didn't mind because, frankly, I knew I was pretty sure that's what they would do. CNN was much more honorable. The debate we had with Biden was a much more honorably run debate. But this was incredible. I mean, everything, so many things I said were debunked, totally debunked, like Charlottesville. I have a list of 7 different things, and she could say anything she wanted. Every time I spoke, and my stuff was right, they'd correct you. I thought it was terrible from the standpoint of ABC. They're the most dishonest, in my opinion, the most dishonest news organization, and that's saying a lot because they're all essentially really dishonest. But I thought I did a great job.
That is, again, whether he did a great job or not, what he's saying about the bias in the moderators, that is absolutely true. Now, there is a big problem for Kamala Harris. Okay, there is. She did not actually quiet anybody about her own policies. She I think, quieted some concerns about her lack of coherence, right? Because she wasn't totally incoherent last night. Yeah, there was a lot of word salad. Yeah, there's a bunch of sloganeering, but she didn't fall over herself. She didn't turn into cackling Kamala. She didn't do any of those things. And so from that perspective, it's a win. But for the 30% of Americans who are still kind of concerned about the fact that she has bad policies, well, I mean, it kind of turns out that those policies are still really bad. ABC's Elizabeth Schultz pointed out she didn't answer like any of the questions, any of them. And this was the signal failure of Muir and Davis. They didn't bother to ask her any follow-ups.
Vice President Harris was asked if she believes Americans are better off now than they were 4 years ago. And frankly, as you pointed out, she didn't answer the question. She instead pivoted to talk about, in broad brushstrokes, some of the policies that she's highlighting.
Yeah, okay, so, that is correct. She didn't answer any of those questions. And that's why it's interesting. You get the polling data. The polling data says that Trump lost the debate, right? The Snap polls say that Trump lost 2-1. Now, how much of immediate reaction is that going to have? I think the answer is kind of not much. So that same CNN poll that said, you viewed the debate, who do you think won? And people in that CNN poll by like a 37% margin said that Kamala Harris won. That same poll showed that before the debate, Donald Trump was winning on who would better handle the economy, 53-37. After the debate, he was winning 55-35. So she has not quieted any of the fears about her as an actual candidate. She has not calmed any of that down, which is a major problem for her. And it's going to continue to be a problem. Now, what is she going to get out of the debate? She's going to get a bunch of vibes. She's going to get the vibes. There will be some gas in the tank. She'll get a big fundraising boost. Her enthusiasm among her base is going to be a lot higher. All of that's quite real. She might get a couple points of bump in the polls, right? She might jump back up to like a 49-47 lead as opposed to being down 48-47 or something like that. It's all going to remain within margin of error because it's a very, very tight election. And then it'll run out. And by next week, we won't be talking about this anymore. By next week, we'll be talking about whatever is the next thing that is happening. Will there be more debates? I don't think so. I know that there's a lot of talk today about whether there's going to be more debates. And Kamala Harris wants one. She immediately came out and said, I want another debate. I want another debate. Of course she wants another debate, because if it's going to be you and the moderators teaming up on Trump, then yeah, why wouldn't you want another debate if you are Kamala Harris? Trump has said that he wants another debate, but obviously the devil is in the details. Donald Trump cannot accept another one of these debates where the moderators just do her work for her. He cannot. That'd be a large-scale mistake. And he should say that. He should say, listen, I'm happy to do a debate with no moderators. No moderators. We'll get the questions submitted in advance, and then it will be a minute for you, a minute for me, 30 seconds rebuttal from each with a clock. And there'll just be someone there who will just set the clock. And when the beep goes off, the mics get muted. And that's it. Right? That is a thing that he could do. He could say, you know what? If we're going to set up a debate, how about this? We'll set up a system. There's a system that's used in Jewish law courts, by the way. I'll pick a moderator. You pick a moderator. They both pick a middle moderator. How about that? We could do that. But he cannot accept the presets of CBS News or NBC News getting to decide who moderates the next debate if there's going to be one. And frankly, I'm not sure that another debate benefits him. I'm not sure it does, because she's going to be able to lie her way out of it. And seeing how easily she gets under his skin, tactically speaking, I'm not sure that juxtaposition helps him. Also, this debate did not hurt him that bad. And that's the big takeaway. At the end, and a lot of takeaways. She was more competent than was thought. She studied up. She did her job. He missed the opportunity. The media were awful. But in the end, what's the big takeaway? So the New York Times has a fascinating piece out today. It's titled, Pundits Said Harris Won the Debate. Undecided voters weren't so sure. Tuesday night was the first time any voter had seen Mr. Trump and Ms. Harris together. The two candidates had never met in person before, creating considerable trepidation among supporters of both campaigns about how they might perform. Immediate reaction from political analysts favored Ms. Harris, whose attacks appeared to rattle Mr. Trump. But not all voters, especially those undecided few who could sway the election, were effusive about the vice president's performance. In interviews, these undecided voters acknowledged that Ms. Harris seemed more presidential than Trump, and they said she laid out a sweeping vision to fix some of the country's most stubborn problems. But they also said she did not seem much different from Mr. Biden, and they wanted change. And most of all, what they wanted to hear and didn't was the fine print. Voters said they were glad she has a tax and economic plan. They also want to know how it'll become law when Washington is so polarized. They know she wants to give assistance to first-time homebuyers, but they doubt that's realistic. Going into the debate, Harris faced a challenge Trump did not, telling the country what they should expect from her presidency. She was unable to do that. Again, that's, I think, in the end, the takeaway. I think we are back to status quo ante. I don't think things really changed based on this debate. It's just, again, for the 1,000th time, a missed opportunity, and there can't be more missed opportunities, which means the next big thing, October 1st, that is the vice presidential debate between J.D. Vance and Tim Walz. Normally, those don't make a huge, big difference or anything like that. You never know in this sort of bizarre election cycle what could make a difference, and there are going to be exogenous events that affect this election. But bottom line is that if you're a conservative, if you're a Republican, if you're a Trump supporter, don't be despondent, don't be in despair. Acknowledge that last night was not a great night for Trump, and also it doesn't hurt him particularly much. If you're a Democrat, I know you're over the moon this morning. I know you're feeling great about Kamala Harris. You know that she's going to run away with this thing. It's all over. Understand, there's 2 months left of the election. She's going to shift back into vibes mode and avoid all questions for the foreseeable future. The problem is the American people still don't have their answers. Stop thinking about it from the perspective of somebody who supports Harris or opposes Harris. Think about it from the perspective of somebody who doesn't know enough about Harris. Do you think any of those people got any new information last night? The answer is no. Now, joining us online to discuss this debate is Vivek Ramaswamy. Of course, you know Vivek from his presidential run. He's been on this stage a few times himself. Vivek, welcome to the show. Great to talk to you.
Hey, good to see you, man.
I have to get your quick take on last night's debate, the 3-on-1 pile-on, the David Muir and Lindsey Davis versus Donald Trump debate. What was your take?
So a few things. I mean, I'll call it like I see it, right? Did Kamala Harris exceed the already low and purposefully low expectation set for her? Yeah, I think she did. But the media narrative is now magnifying that into something that was very different than what actually happened. I thought Donald Trump's best moment, the best moment for either candidate on substance last night, I actually think, was Donald Trump being able to inform a lot of independent voters and a lot of undecided voters what his actual position, the Republican Party's actual position is on abortion, on IVF, where they've told the public for a long time, the Harris campaign and the media has embedded this, saying that he would sign a federal ban on abortion. I actually thought that was one of the exchanges where he came out with crystal clarity, and also the fact that he's going to champion IVF. I know that seems like one of the smaller topic-focused takeaways from last night, but if you fast forward this 3 weeks, that's one of the most substantive impacts I think it's going to have on the race for an issue that a lot of people do seem to think is a big one for the presidential race at the level of voters. I think the 3-on-1 pile-on was an embarrassment for ABC. I think that David Muir in particular did an awful job of even feigning even-handedness. Often what you see in media bias is you'll see the appearance of feigning balance. I think in David Muir's case, they didn't even try to feign balance with the number of times they fact-checked, I use that in air quotes, fact-checked Donald Trump, but without even attempting to really go after Kamala Harris for her prevarication on a wide range of topics. So that was a bit of a disappointment. The other thing that I think President Trump, could hit even harder, I think he hit it hard last night, but I hope in any future debates that come up he does, is the question he really nailed in the conclusion, which is, why haven't you done everything that you're now saying you're going to do over the 4 years that you actually held power along with Joe Biden? He made a compelling case for that in the closing. I thought one of his sharpest moments was actually said when he said, we can end this debate and you can actually go back and sign a bill. And if not sign a bill, take an executive action that would close the border. And in some ways that, in that short moment, highlighted what I think is probably his most powerful argument throughout all of her race to the center. She can say what she wants, but her actions speak louder than words. And I think the best moments for him were last night when he actually allowed that theme to come through. Overall, 2 weeks from now, I don't think this is going to have a major impact on the race. I think it's going to come down to a couple of open issues that haven't been addressed on policy by Kamala Harris. But that's my off the press.
No, I totally agree, obviously, with all of that. I think that mostly for me and for a lot of people, this felt like a missed opportunity more than anything else, because Kamala Harris has been avoiding questions like the plague. She's going to continue to avoid questions like the plague because she can't answer any of those questions. And it seems to me this race really revolves around Donald Trump establishing about her 3 very basic principles. 1, she's the vice president. She's currently responsible for everything that is happening in the White House. The president is not competent. She's the vice president. She owns all of this. 2, she's a far leftist. She herself has said her values have not changed. So even if she's pretending that her actual policies have changed, her values have not, she's admitted as much. And 3, she's an incompetent, and she's always been an incompetent. And I don't think that he actually was able to really establish any of those things on the stage last night. I think he planted seeds. The problem was that there was so much going on. He was so distracted, I think, by many of the attacks that she was leveling against him, against his rallies, that it just felt discombobulated. And what we really needed was something that was a lot more focused. And I'm hoping that there are 2 months to go. It's still a long time. That this campaign gets a lot more focused on those issues and just sticks to those issues and pummels her on those.
Yeah, and I'm not going to beat a dead horse and complaining about aspects of last night. One hard reality is that would have been a job for the moderators in a format in which they have muted mics. Donald Trump, I think, did try at several points in time to address questions to Kamala Harris, but that wasn't the level or the type of format that had been negotiated. And when the moderators completely abdicated that responsibility, I think it was a missed opportunity for voters, is what I would say, to see a lot of those holes in Kamala Harris's policy positions. I agree with 90% of what you said. The only part I disagree with, you and maybe some others when they've made this claim is, I think calling Kamala Harris a far left Marxist is almost giving her too much credit. It assumes that she's ideological, right? Bernie Sanders is ideological. Okay, you could give somebody, I disagree with his ideology, but he has an ideology. I don't think Kamala Harris particularly has an ideology. I think what's closer to the flame is the idea that she's just another cog in the system.
You've said it before, it's totally right, by the way. It's totally right. I mean, they're slapping a new coat of paint on this ugly jalopy. Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my perspective on, as we wrap up the debate from last night. Basic thing is, I think a lot's going to happen in the next 6 weeks, and 2 weeks from now, I think much of that debate's going to be irrelevant, except for, I think, the ability to take the legs out from under the Democrat argument on abortion, which I think was a quiet but underappreciated positive coming out of last night.
Well, Vivek Ramaswamy, again, good to talk to you.
Thank you.
In just 1 second, we're going to get to the biggest endorsement of the year, Tay McTaylor Swift. She has now endorsed Kamala Harris. Wow, can't believe that happened. If you're not a member, become a member, use code Shapiro, check out for 2 months free on all annual plans. Click that link in the description and join us.
Republicans are Nazis. You cannot separate yourselves from the bad white people.
Growing up, I never thought much about race. It never really seemed to matter that much, at least not to me. Am I racist?
I would really appreciate it if you left.
I'm trying to learn. I'm on this journey. If I'm going to sort this out, I need to go deeper undercover.
They gon' say I'm racist.
Joining us now is Matt, certified DEI expert.
Here's my certification. And what you're doing is you're stretching out of your whiteness. What's more for you in this field? Is America inherently racist?
The word inherent is challenging
I want
there.
to rename the George Washington Monument to the George Floyd Monument.
America is racist to its bones.
So inherently.
Yeah, this country is a piece of
White.
folks.
White trash.
White supremacy.
White woman. White boy.
Is there a black person around?
There's a black person right here. Does he not exist?
Hi, Robin.
Hi. What's your name?
I'm Matt.
Just had to ask who you are because you have to be careful.
Never be too careful.
Buy your tickets now. In theaters September 13th. Rated PG-13.